Welcome to the Spring 2022 class on International Petroleum Concessions and Agreements. That's one section, and that is EER 396 and PGE 383. However, there's another section that is sitting alongside or listening from online, is titled differently, but it's the same content. And the title, if you're taking this class as 363 PGE, will read Petroleum Regulations and Leases, Leasing, International Petroleum, it says here, Petroleum Leasing Regulations and Practices. I take back, I'll read it again to you so it's clear for those taking this class in section PGE 363. It's an undergraduate class for them. And the title is Petroleum Leasing Regulations and Practices. So it's double listed. There's a graduate and undergraduate course, and the contents are the same. Both the undergraduates and graduates students will be listening to the same content, okay? So just to clear that. So let me welcome you to the class today, and I hope and pray you're safe from this wretched COVID and your family is safe. That's the first thing we ask each other, not how you're doing and what happened in the holidays. We say, and I hope you didn't catch COVID. That's become the new norm, so to speak. Very sad that it is, but that's the way it is, okay? Now, today's lecture is, again, I repeat, is dealing with international petroleum agreements, global, it's international, okay? And again, the second section I mentioned is the petroleum leasing regulations and practices. I hope that's clear again. I hope you had a good Christmas and that you're fresh and rested and ready to take on another semester of learning. Now, make sure that you understand what I'm going to say now. I know the university has said to all students and faculty that because of COVID, the first 2 weeks will be online. Subsequently, whatever date they gave, I think, January something at the end, 31st maybe, or something like that. And the classes will be in person. However, there is a difference with my class that you're attending or will be listening, that this will be online throughout the entire spring semester. So that's one thing I wanted to clarify. This is not going to end just after the first 2 weeks, then you go in person. This particular class and my energy finance class, which is the second class I teach, are online throughout the semester. When I was teaching these two classes on campus for 20, 25 years, I've done it, these classes alone. That time, these classes were taught Thursdays 4 to 6 and Fridays. Thursdays was 4 to 7, the finance class, and the international agreements class on Friday 3 to 6, okay? So sometime I might say something like, from 4 to 7, but that really means nothing to you. That means that the class is online, okay? But that was when we were teaching in person, okay? A little bit of clarity here, but soon you'll see why I'm saying all these things. And again, today's lecture is not going to be full 3 hours, so if you feel comfortable and happy, and it'll be much, much shorter. It'll be just an introduction to the subject. Most of you are technical, if not all of you are technical background, a lot of equations and formula, okay? In this class, you will not come across any formula or equations, so it's going to be a very different class. I hope that it is a useful class. I'd like to make it a useful class. And let me give you an introduction. How will it be useful in this particular class? As we know that for quite a long time, the international, particularly the IOCs of America, the Texacos and the Chevron, the Mobil and Exxon and so on, are moving the operations gradually overseas to foreign countries. And on the other hand, the foreign countries, nations, bringing these oil companies to help with the capital, the money, and the technology, and to produce the oil and take some and leave some for the country. Okay, so this has become a very global or international business for oil. So I asked myself this question 20 years back, that we produce very good engineers from our department and geologists here from the geology class. I'm both a petroleum engineer and a geologist by background. That the engineers and geologists should be exposed to what happens when they're going overseas from America or from UK or France to different countries, and what kind of contracts are there that they have to talk about with the host country where they're going. Similarly, the nationals of the host country, like Malaysia or Indonesia or Ecuador or Colombia and Norway and China, need to know what to discuss in petroleum contracts when they're sitting across the table from the IOCs coming from various countries. So this kind of a course was not being taught anywhere that I know of, anywhere. So I took it upon myself, this challenge, that I should, this like maybe 20 years back, that this course would be prepared, put together by me, to educate those who are going overseas. And sooner or later, trust me, most of you, if not all of you, whether you're from America, will be going overseas, or from France, with Total, you might be going overseas, or a very big company, which most people have not heard about, is Eni from Italy. They'll be going overseas from their countries. So I said, well, nobody is teaching this course. So I took upon myself and this, to prepare and start delivering this course, so that to educate those who are going to be going all over the world. Okay? So that's the background when I started. And I always do these kind of things. It becomes a challenge for me. And I live life where there's challenge. Even at my age, I'm looking for a challenge. The life without challenge gets boring for me, okay? I hope you will take up challenges as you get older and older. Okay? So that gives you an idea why and when it was developed. Similarly, I developed a parallel course, which I teach, as I said, on Thursdays, used to teach on Thursdays, still considered to be a Thursdays class, even if you're online, was an energy finance class. Same reason, that started 25 years back, this started about 20 years back. Good engineers coming out and geologists from UT Austin and A&M and so on, very good in technical subjects, but lacking in the business side of oil. Because I'll spend some time over in Houston. That's when I realized that we should give our students, PG or geology students, I think most of you PG students, I just add geology because I don't know, there might be 2 geology students sitting there, to give them an opportunity to take on these subjects of agreements and finance that adds a business aspect to the education. As it is, when you join a company, you have to have a professional background. You have to be an engineer or a geologist or a physicist or a chemist. Once you're in the company, you can stay there and draw good salaries, be there for 30 years as a geophysicist maybe, or some young men like to take another route and become managers and vice presidents, all the good stuff and the big titles and the directors. For that, these kind of courses that I'm delivering, finance and agreement and similar business related, could become paramount. And that the president of the company of Exxon is not here to solve the equations at a younger level, a newer level. As you join, that's where you get involved in these drilling operations around. When you go up the rank, the other aspects of your background play even a greater role. Okay. So this is kind of an overview about my background. I want to introduce myself a little bit. I'm a product of this department of PGE, and I arrived here in May of 71. That puts me at more than half a century back. I got my master's and my PhD from this department, and I've been involved, particularly in teaching here, for well over 30 years. But in between, I did a few other things, like I was a banker, That brings in my finance background. I talk about a lot of finance and banking together in my other course, because petroleum engineers are employed by banks all the time. I served as a petroleum engineer in a bank, and I also have a utility background, electric utility background, okay, of power generation. The reason I mention this, besides the fact now I've been teaching here in the department for probably over 30 years, I believe, that along this program, this course of this semester, I'll be touching on maybe the utility aspects sometime. What happens in a joint venture? I might talk about my own experience in a joint venture in a utility, okay? Electric utility as example. So I will draw on my experience outside the oil business, of course, focus being the oil business, to expand and open your mind to complete the knowledge, so to speak. Okay, so that's why I thought it'd be nice for you to know my background. Okay, the title says International Petroleum Agreements. Remember, so it's global in nature. So I'm going to go with you and take you with me all around the world. One day in a lecture, I could be talking about Indonesia. The next minute, I'm talking about Norway. And the next minute, I'm talking about the agreements in Colombia. And I've taught in all these countries. You know, I can name countless, well, there are no countless countries, but God knows, I've given these lectures thousands of times around the globe. Countries that I'm just naming, because some of them are very big producers. Norway is a very big producer. China, I've lectured there too, Indonesia, Malaysia, I can go on and on. While I don't give any homework, I will take an exception to that rule. All I want you to do is, for a homework if you like it, because I'm going to move from Indonesia to Colombia, where there's oil and so on, to Nigeria and God knows, and to Libya and Saudi Arabia and so on. I would like for you to have an understanding where these countries are and what are their capitals. I may not say Indonesia, but I might just say Jakarta, not thinking that you already know Jakarta means Indonesia, that is the capital. Okay. So please, the homework, look at the world and see which countries are big producers of oil. That's all. 20 minutes. You can Google it. Say, put down 30 largest producers of oil in the world and look at their capital cities. It's like a kindergarten class here, but because I'm going to scan the globe. Why is that necessary? Because in this class, I'm going to move into what are the incentives that Indonesia gives versus Australia to bring oil companies and look for oil in Indonesia versus Australia. So I'm going to move around, and it'll be nice for you to know, and so on. We'll go to, at one point in the lecture, I'll go to Indonesia. Next minute, I'm in the United States. I'll move to Norway, Colombia, I keep talking about, in China. So we're going to have a global understanding of some of the interesting and important things these countries are offering. I want you to understand one thing right up front, that most of us, or all of us, we have phobias. Now, what's a phobia? Phobia is a fear. I have a lot of fear. I'm not saying I don't. Everybody does. I'll give you an example, and that's called phobia, fear or phobia. Let me say that I've used two words, fear, phobia. The reason is simply this. Why did I use two words? And I will continue to do that in the future as far as possible. To say the same thing, of course. Because I understand we have a lot of foreign students. English is not their mother language, okay? So, and I'm used to going to countries where English is not the mother language. So sometimes I say, well, maybe they don't understand this word phobia. My students here at UT maybe not, well, they're not familiar with it. So I substitute with the word fear, or so that they get an idea what is that I'm talking about. So therefore, I will interchangeably use these words so that helping the students who don't understand the nuances of English to understand what I'm saying, phobia and fear, same thing. So we all have a fear. I'll tell you what is my fear. No hiding it. I just don't like to see blood. No, I just don't like it. Is there something wrong with me? Certainly not. But I don't like the sight of blood. No. Do you think with that situation, I will be a good surgeon where I do a cut in the body or on the skin, and blood comes out, and I'm going to run out of the operation theater faster than you can imagine and leave the wound way open? There's nothing wrong with me. I just there are the people who don't mind being surgeons. I will not make a good surgeon. I guarantee, don't come to me if you need any help for surgery. Same way, technical people generally, and I'm both. I teach economics, I teach finance, I teach contracts, I teach engineering, and I've taught geology. Okay? Very unusual background. So when I say anything about any background, I'm not saying anything negative. I'm one of those too. So what happens is most individuals, technical, or even like maybe science, physics, and chemistry, and geology, and engineering, they have fear of non-technical subjects. They have fear of economics and finance because, oh, well, we can do equation, but what is this economic? What does net present value mean, okay? So my job here is to take that fear out of you folks, out of your mind, and say these agreements that we talk about, so simple, easy, don't have any fear. Let the teaching be my responsibility. You just be comfortable with me. And that's it. And similarly, those who are lawyers and attorneys, they have this fear about technical things. Oh, I don't know how to make this equation, how to do, there's nothing wrong with them. So that's what I'm trying to say. That if you have any thinking that, oh, I've never taken this kind of a course before, I don't know what Dr. Mar, please don't have that fear. Please, I ask you, don't worry about it. Let that be my job to make life easy for you, as long as you sit and listen carefully. Okay. Now, I've used the word agreements many times so far. I'll substitute it with another word, contract, meaning what? Both words I will use interchangeably, depending on what mood I'm in. I might say there's a contract. Same thing, petroleum contracts, petroleum agreements. So do not be confused that when I say contracts are any different from what I say is an agreement, interchanging words, okay? Occasionally you'll see I'm looking down, what for? Because I have, no, you can't see, don't worry, you don't have to see that, is to make sure that I cover everything in this introductory class, to give you an understanding what to expect. You're going to be here with me for a good while, the whole semester. That this morning I put down some points here that I should cover these in the first class, this one, so I don't miss it. And so I just go, hey, okay, I've already talked about this class, so let's move on to the next one. They are not in any particular priority order. Just as thoughts were coming in, I just started typing them. Okay, that's all. So it may be random. Sometimes I talk about this, and suddenly I jump to this and come back. This is just an introduction to get you to understand a bit of me, my accent maybe, and that's the whole point, okay? So that's what I'm going to look down. As I think maybe there's a repeat here. I've been in Austin. Not many people have been here before I came here. In 1951, it's more than half a century back. Austin was not what it is today. Believe me, it was a beautiful little city. I fell in love with it and said, this is home. I will not leave Austin. As you can tell, I'm a foreigner. It's all over my face. But after living in a place for 51 years, I wonder if I can call myself a foreigner anymore. Okay? But even at that time, when I used to be young, long 500 years ago, believe it or not, I was young. Most people look at me and say, no, you were never young. You can't be young. Look at these. Come on, don't tell us you were ever young. But when I was younger, let's say, or less old, this country, this was a really remarkable city. It still has some charm left. And I said, this is it. Even at that young age, I decided This is home. So I stayed on. So I would go home, visit family, and come back. But this is home. And by the way, on the side, I don't want you to feel, my wife has 2 degrees from UT. I have 2 daughters. Both have 2 degrees from UT. My son-in-law, my daughter's husband, has got 2. So we all Longhorns, okay? We don't let anybody in the house unless he shows me he's got at least 2 degrees from UT. So we have dyed orange. That's what I want to say. So I've given you the idea. I'm going to this. Why introduce this course? I think I just started and told you about it. And I did say this is for the entire semester. And the 3 sections in this course, PG 383, EER 396, and PG 363. I've already said it in my introduction about. Now I'm going through the list. And I have, in fact, for 30 years, till this COVID struck us, I was spending at least half the year overseas, teaching this and other courses. To me, teaching is my love of life. There's nothing more that I enjoy more than teaching. It's a passion. For me, it's a calling. I think that God intends me to teach, and that's why I love it. I enjoy it. Okay? Why do I enjoy it? I'll tell you why. Because you're sharing. You're giving something. It's more fun giving than receiving. Trust me. What am I giving? The little bit knowledge that I have, that's what I'm sharing with you. That's what I'm giving. So there's a charm about sharing knowledge. Let me tell you that right away. This is something different, sharing something else. I'll give you an example. If you have $100 and you give it to me, do you have $100? No, I have them. If you have a car, you give it to me, do you have that car? No, I have. You have a house, you give it to me, do you have your house? No, I have it. That's normally what happens. Teaching is another thing. Totally different. Remember that, please. If I have knowledge and I keep saying a little bit, even a little bit, and I share it with you, what happens? You get it, you benefit from it. You say, good, I learned something. What about me? Unlike the car, I give it, I don't have knowledge, I still keep. So while I give it to you, or share, not you in the sense of you, I share it with you, yet I keep it. Why not then give you knowledge and you don't lose anything? That's the spirit I do. Why else would I be doing this unless I have that desire to share the little I have? I'm a religious person. I'm not saying you should or should not be. That's not why I'm here. Please, that's up to you. Because to me, that's the intent of life anyway. Sharing. It gives us so much pleasure. But anyway, that's philosophical. You'll be surprised. I do get philosophical at this stage. And so that you benefit. I'm not here to teach you anything but this or that. This is right. No, I'm not a right or wrong guy. Okay? This is a point of view. That's all. Does it mean I'm right? Does it mean I'm wrong? No, this is one way to look at life. If you didn't look at it, you would say, well, we got to look at another side. Do you have to agree? No. Do you have to do it? It's up to you. At least it gave you time to have another input from an old man. That's all. I'm not trying to convert anybody to anything. Okay? So please be comfortable with me. I've not made up my mind. What should you do? No. That's up to you. Okay. I'm going to this here. I'm going to try to keep this as practical a course as possible. Something that you can use and will use. I guarantee it. Not the first day of your job. Where are you going to work? Obviously, you're going to work for an oil company. Well, maybe these days they're working for wind and all that stuff. I don't know. But my daughter works for the wind company, the French company, I think. I'm talking oil. That after the first 2 or 3 years, maybe 4 at the most, you're going to find yourself working overseas. It's guaranteed. As I see the bright sun outside, I can guarantee you that. Why? Because that's where the jobs are. That's where you're going to go. That's where the oil is. Overseas, how much is left to here? With the latest regulation, don't drill here, don't do that. In America, you do the environment and all. So And we have drilled God knows how many millions of wells over the last 150 years, how much more there is left to drill. So with a good chance, a good guess, that you before long in your job are going to be headed overseas. Which country? I don't know. Your company will decide. And that is where you will say, now I know what Dr. Malik was saying, that this knowledge is going to help you there. And vice versa. So, well, I'm not going to be here working for Exxon and go overseas. I'm from overseas, so where am I going to go? Let's say if you were in, let's pick a country, Norway, and the company, the Statoil, the national oil company, and there's a government of Norway that is going to sign a contract with an international oil company. The government of Norway has to be knowledgeable. What kind of a contract they want to sign, and so on, that this helps the individuals who are Norwegians in Norway working for the government or Statoil, when they're talking to foreign workers. So either way, whether you're foreigners from here, going, local American citizens going overseas, or whether you're overseas person living overseas, you have to deal with foreigners coming to your country to talk petroleum contract. So either way, I try to convince you that this is going to be, I hope, practical and will help you in your future professional development, I hope, and I pray that it does. And let me say, what is my desire, if you ask me? Only I have one desire. That is, you all, or whoever takes my advice, is as successful as it possibly you can be. That is what will make me happy, that you're a success. So my desire is to see you successful. How much you learn of this or that is not for me to guarantee, but all I desire is, what will make me very happy, that you are successful in life. Okay? Please keep in mind, because that's the love I have, is for you folks. I treat you like my young children. Don't take it badly, you know. Who is more dear to me than my own two daughters? Nobody. Other than my students, then they say, when I say, you're my child, you're really like my two daughters, you know. So that's where the fatherly things, or the grandfatherly things comes out. I'm older than most of you whose fathers are. I know that, and that's why I fall again for the category. Okay. I'm trying hard to make you feel comfortable with the old man looking at you. Okay? Or you're looking at the old man, either way. Okay. Because, if you're inhibited, and then there is no exchange as such, back and forth. And I want that to happen. Okay. Let me make it a little easier, even though I'm going to the last part of this first page. There are 3-4 pages. In this course, there will be nothing legal. I'm not talking about the legal aspects of contracts. Certainly not. Legal is, I call it legalese. The word is hereafter. Whereof, whereas. Every contract you see, where, I have no idea what they mean. None. Whereof. I know it's where and it's off. The two words, but put it together. Why? Ask them, whoever is doing, I don't know. Here to after, here, one word, two, after. Here with. Now that's all legal language. I'm not into here to after. You will not hear me say that here to after, believe me. Because that is not the intent of this course. That brings in legal language. If you say, well, we want to learn about that, well, then there is another course that I do not teach. There's another professor, maybe 2 or 3 of them. And they're in the law school here at UT. I believe, I could be wrong, their course is called International Petroleum Transactions, I think. So they do. My course would look at the operations, the economics, their course looks at the legal. Together, I think they'll make good combination together. They will be very helpful. I'm not saying take this or that. I'm just giving you information, because most students in the College of Engineering, in our department too, are not familiar with what's going on. It's got 52,000 students and God knows 2,500 professors teaching how many courses? They average teaching 2 courses, that's 5,000 courses. listed in the catalog. I'm just doing the rough calculation. How can anybody know which course to take and where it is and all? Okay. So I just gave you that information. It's called English, I don't know, it's called International Petroleum Transaction or something like that. Okay. That's what they look at. Normally, when you look at the legal side, they normally would go, I'm thinking, I'm not taking the course, and I can imagine, they'll probably talk about the cases. When Exxon went to Nigeria, there was a case between the two, there was negotiations, and legally, this is how the contract was read by Exxon, but Nigerian government read it differently, okay? And let's go to the judge and decide which is the correct one from the legal side, okay? So that's what that is. Case studies, cases. Okay? I'm not talking any case here, none whatsoever, okay? There are 4 parts to the semester as far as the course, the 4 parts to the course. Let me write them down, please. So the whole semester is broken down into 4 parts. Uh-oh. That's one part. That's right. That's it. These are the 4 parts. When I talk about negotiations, that's part 4 of the semester. That'll be told. And this is the sequence in which I'll teach, write them down. So at any given time during the semester, you'll know where we are, how much is left and how much to go, and how much have we done. Let's start. I'm just giving you a few sentences for each one, but this is a whole semester, 4 months. Definitions, concepts, language of agreements. This would take probably 2 lectures, okay, at least. Every profession has its own language. Give you an example of language of petroleum engineers. I happen to be one. You talk about PVT all the time. Oh, PVT. Does a doctor know what is a PVT? I don't think so. Does a physicist know what is a PVT? I doubt it. Does a chemist know what is a pharmacist? Know what is a definitely not. But when petroleum engineers say PVT, they know what it means: pressure, volume, temperature. That is the language of petroleum engineering. Okay. Every profession has its own language in which they talk to each other. Same thing, geology, they talk about geosyncline, anticline, structural traps. No depth, no dentist knows what is a structural trap. That is the language of agreements, of geology. So that way, that means that first thing first. First, we have to learn the language in which the contracts are written. Not difficult. So when you see a contract, it says unitization, and they all do say that word. What does that mean? I've never heard of unitization. That's my job, is to explain it to you. So next time when you read a contract and you say, this is the unitization of the field. Oh, now I know. So that tells me this is super. All four are very important parts. Not one is more. That's why I said, let's start with first know how to talk to each other. Isn't that the only way to communicate, is learn to talk to each other? That's the language of contracts. Okay. This one, very likely, I'm thinking, we will start, other than initially, there'll be like maybe 45 minutes of objectives of government, objectives of the oil company, defining what is an agreement, how do you make it. Take that in general. So then after that, I'll start this part one and clear up some definition. What is approved reserve? What do we mean by norm price? What do we mean by ring fence? What is a production bonus versus a signature bonus? All they're like, I don't think there are more than 20 of these words and concepts, okay? So don't get excited because you don't know what they mean. That's my job. Once you sit there and we talk, hey, that field need to be unitized. Oh, okay, I know what you're talking about. And this time you don't. Simple as that. So that's the first part. Let's move on to the second part of agreements. There is no one single type of an agreement in the world. There used to be one, but not now. Let me write down 4 different types of agreements. That's the second part. One. Concessions, PSA, JV, joint venture, and service contract. That's all. The oldest type of contract between government and oil company, example, is a concession. That was like 100 years old, companies used to have concessions. with the government, of course. This is an agreement between the government and the company. Or it can be, in some cases, not in this case, between a company and a company, but let's focus on government and the company. So, however, over decades and over years and years, the type of concession, the old original that we think about, have completely changed to what it is today. So I'll have to explain that to you. What is a concession and who has it? Which country you have a concession? All these are applied in different countries. Some country may have a concession, the other one may have a PSA, the other one have a service contract. Then we will move to number 2 type. It says PSA. Write it down. Production Sharing Agreement. Production Sharing Agreement. Agreement is also the same as a contract. So sometimes it's called PSA, sometimes it is called PSC. C stands for contract, Production Sharing Contract. I use these two interchangeably depending on my mood, maybe, or how cold the weather is or not cold. Sometimes I'll say PSA, sometimes I'll say PSC, same thing. Okay. Number 3 type, is a joint venture. Sometimes, mostly these days, because oil exploration is getting very, very expensive. Good part of it, a lot of it is going overseas, outside. Now, overseas meaning physically in the sea, or in the ocean, off the coast, going offshore, rather not overseas, but offshore. They're expensive projects. So no single company, or very few, want to take the risk of putting money all in one project offshore Gulf of Mexico, or offshore Norway, or offshore Brazil, or Angola. These are big offshore areas of production of oil in the world. I've just listed some. So to spread the risk, they get maybe 2 or 3 companies, A, B, and C, and say, hey, let's get together and we all chip in, and then we find oil and produce it, and we share it. If it's a dry hole, we won't lose a shirt and lose all our money. We take, and then we produce, we'll share it equally, or however the arrangement is. These are joint ventures. We talk about arrangements, whether it's a NRI, net revenue interest, and working interest. These are words I'm throwing at you. Don't worry if you don't know them. I've not explained them. So I'm deliberately using different words, getting your ear to pick a word: net revenue interest, NRI. Working interest, WI. All joint ventures have in the contract what is the NRI of company A, what is the NRI of company B, what is WI of company A, what is WI. Don't expect you to know now. They're very simple. Okay. Finally, it's a service contract. The government of Iraq, there's a lot of oil there, a lot of companies operating in Iraq. They only offer one kind of agreement. If you go there, say, okay, this is the only kind of agreement. If you like it, take it. If you don't, sorry, this is it. And all the agreements are service contracts. In some countries, there's no service contract type of agreement. Iraq does offer and exclusively resort to service contracts. Okay. All of these agreements they have advantages, disadvantages, and so on and so forth. Let me be clear. We might start next time with this. What is a good agreement? Well, okay. So that is the question I may ask you next time. Think about it. What do you think is the definition of good agreement? I was tempted to give you the answer. Then, no, let them think. That's a good homework. And the homework is going to be so simple. What is the thing? Go look at the capital. Okay, I'm not going to burden. It's up to you what you want to investigate more. And there is a book that you can order and all that stuff. We'll talk about that later. Okay, so we'll talk about what is a good agreement. All have their merits and demerits, advantages and disadvantages for the governments and the oil companies and vice versa. There's no perfect example agreement that I've come across. Not one anywhere in the world. All have some little kinks that I don't like. However, and these change over time. You know, with technology, the new things, ways to drill and new ways to produce oil, same way with agreements. You know, they add a new clause, something new is added on, which is something new and beneficial. And yes, there is an agreement that is not very old, agreement type, which I like very much. And I'll tell you why I like it when we talk about that. And which country has it, and it's it's growing like fire, wildfire, and everybody who's learning about it, every country, I mean, is adding it to the agreement. It's good for both sides. So I'm going to talk about that also. But that will be what will be the end of part 3. No, part 3 is how do you know you have a good agreement? I think that's where we were. Okay. So part 3, if I didn't have said it because I might get carried away in some other direction. The third part is how do we know we have a good agreement? Who is we? How does the company know they have a good agreement? How does the government know they have a good agreement? So I'm going to talk about that. All these are very important subjects. You may think you have a good agreement. Do we know? How do we know it? So, government collect revenue from oil production. That's what they drill for oil, from national or international. It doesn't matter. The question comes up: how does government collect revenue? Part 3 of this program. A very interesting and unusual part. There we will talk about oil policy of governments around the world. Legislation, there's laws and regulations, legislation, not difficult. What kind of laws do we have in America versus China? What do they have in China versus Norway? No equations, nothing of the sort. I'm really fascinated by this particular one. How do we know we have a good agreement? I'll give you a list of 5, maybe 6 things or items to go back and look at the agreement if you're doing work on agreements to see, does my agreement have these points? Yes. Or does it have number 4 point is missing or is not correct? You have to go and fix it. So very, very valuable information for anybody who's dealing with it. I don't mind it's a government or oil company. I'm not here to sell government, not here to sell oil company. I'm just a lowly teacher. I use the word, I was teacher. Let's talk about that. I didn't say professor. A teacher is the highest rank a human being can achieve after your parents. Remember that. In my opinion, this is just an opinion. You say, no, I don't know. My girlfriend is a higher rank than the teacher. That's your own business. I don't believe that, but you may say so. They give you here from which you can succeed in life. But there are 100 other reasons. A person is lucky if in life he comes across 3, maybe. I doubt you can get 4. If you do, you're the luckiest. 4 teachers. Professors come dime a dozen. Meaning what? That's an American language. You can pick a rock and there are 5 professors underneath there. I know there are over 1 million professors in America. I said only 3 teachers. There must be something different. Teacher is one who is what you are today, young man and young woman. Let me tell you why. You never thought you'll hear these things. I know that. I'll tell you why I believe that. And it has nothing to do with the course. This is just to open your mind the best I can. Well, the teacher, some of you are geologists and engineers. Some of you become doctors and pharmacists. And some parents, oh, God made my son a doctor. I knew when he was young, he will be a doctor. Oh, this fellow, my boy, when he was 6-year-old, I could see him becoming an engineer because he was hitting on everything that he was hitting because a rowdy little kid, give him two on his face, he'd be okay. He was breaking everything. He was not going to be an engineer because he hammered everything back like that. Now, how do you end up being there? Teacher. Professor, teacher. All teachers are not equal. And you have taken maybe 70 in your life. Kindergarten teacher, primary school teacher, or elementary, primary, middle, and high school, and college teacher, undergraduate, graduate. Golly, every time there was somebody over there teaching you. So why am I raised? You say, why is Dr. Malik talking so much about this teacher business? And he's excluded the professors from there. How do you become an engineer? I'll tell you today. Mostly, I don't know about everybody. I didn't take a poll on how did you become that. That's not important, but I did give you an idea. When you were in school, before college, maybe, or after college, in college, the teacher who made math and physics interesting, all these subjects are interesting, is the teacher who makes, or not interesting, depending on the teacher. So one who made physics interesting and math interesting, you liked it, didn't you? You liked the teacher, but more than that, you liked the subject. And what do you end up being? An engineer, because you liked the math. Who made the math fun? That teacher. They always talk about, and let me finish this thought. There's another teacher who made anatomy, this human body. Anatomy is the subject taught in high school. The teacher who made your human body and the physical self interesting, and you liked it, and you wanted to learn more about it, you ended up being a doctor. Therefore, the teacher has a lot to do with what you are today. You have to respect that teacher. Again, I didn't say professor. I didn't take them out. A professor could be a teacher too, and they are. So, ability to communicate, I'm coming to that also. Makes a big difference with them. Always, oh, Harvard is the best school, MIT is better, UT is good, Rice, I said, nonsense. I have a very different point of view from most of the rest of the world. Believe me, if you ever sat Malik, say, golly, man, Dr. Malik's so different. I don't know if he's making sense to anybody else. I said, forget the names of these big universities. No. It does not matter whether you go to Harvard or UT or Rice or MIT or Cornell or UCLA. It's not this, it's the teacher that is, whose class you're taking. Whether he's in Harvard or he's down the street in Austin, Texas, from St. Edwards or some other university, or Columbia, or whatever they call this, or Houston Tillerson College, doesn't matter. But most people did, oh, my son is going to, I said, I know your son is going to the big Harvard, but I've got nothing against that. Put him there. But what difference is, where is the teacher who taught him that chemistry that he liked so much? Was he there? Maybe he was. They're not guaranteed, right? So anyway, that's a side story. I like to give, because there's open, am I right? No, it's an opinion. I can't say, well, I'm right, you got to listen. This is not an exam question. I hope it opens your mind. Hey, man, Dr. Malik is a different kind of character here. And I have no problem with that. No problem with that. And you will find out, yeah, it's a different way to look at life. With age, you learn these things. It's not in a textbook you learn these things. Remember that, please. Okay. Where were I? How do you know? Okay. Let me talk about this, and then have you been teaching online 2 years? Yeah, we've taught this course online for 20 years, not online for 20 years in person, but last 2 years, this is the third year, we have teaching on online. Sadly. Do I like it? No, I don't. This is no way to teach, but I don't control the pandemic. It's coming from somewhere. I don't know where will it go? When will it go? Only God knows. I cannot predict. I cannot tell where it came from. I do not know when will it go. Will it make my lifetime or whose? I have no idea. So we are forced to teach it online. Not the best way, the best we can do. Okay. But why do I have to say that? Last 2 years when I teach, I only teach in spring semester, only. Last 2 years, spring semester when I taught, the evaluations, I don't know what to brag about it was very nice from the students, and it was touching. Very nice. When touching means I got emotional about it. And I'm not putting words in your mouth. I'm just saying this is how it was. And I'll tell you, if you have any question, and there was never any, not once there was any difficulty from any student out of anybody, not in online or otherwise either. And I'll then tell you how we're going to do it, this online exchange of questions and all in a minute. I'm coming to that, okay? So I'll skip that for now and come back to it. There was one thing I was, so I will come to. I have to come to negotiation. Let me talk about negotiation because it's up there and I'll turn the page, I'll never come to it. Remember I said that fourth part is negotiations? Okay. Agreements, after all, at the end of the day, you negotiate. Government one side, all company other side, you negotiate, and then we sign off if we agree on things. How we conducted part 4 in the past when we did it in person at the university, in the classroom, is very different from now. That's why I said there's no way to teach. When I was teaching this subject of negotiation in class, in person at the university, so we actually had a practical demonstration where I would put 4 students as representing oil company Exxon, maybe, and 4 students representing the government of Norway, okay. The official, the government. Then I would say, discuss royalty. Then I'll have to explain to you later what. And then I'll give them about 20 minutes to prepare and discuss. Then the students collectively, the ones who are listening in the class, and I would make some comments, good and not good. And that's a good way to teach, is to actually give the students an opportunity to demonstrate the negotiation skills. Can we do it now? I'm sorry, we can't. This pandemic thing is causing havoc to even our teaching style. So in this case, since we can't do it in person, I have to have taken some notes and I'll just lecture from those notes. Example being, there are 2 kinds of negotiators, type A and type B. And you say, what is the difference between A and B, Dr. Malik? Give me, I think I need a handkerchief because I need to do 3. Give me, please. I know cold wind blowing here somewhere. Let me get a handkerchief so I don't. Although, no, I can. Give me a second. Okay. Yeah, forgive me for this interruption. Can't help it. So I talk about type A and type B. Now you have no idea what's the difference. So when it comes to talk about negotiations, I'll say, well, there are some individuals type A type B type. If you know that which type is the other guy on the other side, you can kind of mold your style to negotiate with him and vice versa. So I'll leave that detailed discussion for the appropriate time. That will be towards the end of the course. Let's talk about, well, I've just put on, you're fortunate to have the opportunity to learn just a statement. There'll be literally hundreds of million young men and women who would love to be where you are today, to learn. Not everybody is so fortunate. Take advantage of that. It's a blessing to have the opportunity. It doesn't come easy to everybody. Having said that, let me talk about a TA business. There is a TA for this course, and there's a name I'll give you. It's J-E-O-N, John. The last name is too difficult for me to even spell, but I'll give you the spelling part of the syllabus. We haven't talked about the syllabus yet. He has done this with me for a number of years, and he has been with me, my companion, so to speak, for both the last 2 spring semesters when I was teaching this course online. Okay, so he knows, and it does a remarkable. Otherwise, would I keep him the 3rd year? No, for online teaching, because he's so good. I think he can teach this better than I can. So, but he has not taken the course. But his job is not to teach. I'll tell you what's the difference in his job and mine. His job is to only, when you contact, if you want to contact, I'll give you his contact, to answer your question about logistics, meaning what? I ship this to him, this lecture will go to him, and then he'll, through some Canvas business, he's going to send it to you. So if for some reason he didn't send it, or there's an attachment sometimes that goes with the lecture, and there's no attachment, said, no, John, there's no attachment. No, these are the things that he's supposed to take care of, not me. Because if you write to me, I'll tell him, John, you handle this. So why even come here and go directly to him? He knows that. It's very seldom that he's ever been confronted with any question of this sort. But if there is, just ask him. Okay? Whereas my job is to impart the knowledge, the lecture, not to know that now this got shipped today, or was it will be shipped tomorrow, or this lecture, that whatever way you get to the Canvas. No, that's your. Okay. And he's a good fellow, very, very precise. I like that. I only talk to, discuss subjects, the subject matter. Okay, because he can't answer. As I said, he didn't take this course. How can he answer? Okay. We always have this thing about office hours.